Hey everybody, and welcome to the UFC 245 Aftermath, and we're going to take a look at the main card of the UFC event that just went down this past weekend, which was headlined by Usman and Colby Covington, and goddamn, what a night of fights, man. I mean, a lot of high-level shit going on Saturday night, right? And even before you get to the main card, you had Geoff Neal knocking out Mike Perry in the headlining bout on the prelims on ESPN2, so big deal for him. I'm hoping that fight really got that kid some more exposure to the public eye, just because he's so fucking talented, man. I think a lot of people are really excited about him, and he's been tearing through the welterweight division and just knocked out if you watch Mike Perry's his fights, he's kind of he go out on the shield type of guy, right? But he's hard to put away, very tough. And Neal just went out and, whoo, man, powerful, right? And his technique is just so sharp and crisp. So, you got that fight, and that was a nice warm-up for the main card. And first up, we had Urijah Faber fighting Petr Yan. And this was one of those fights where, you realize what the difference between a guy who has been contemplating retirement is and a legit, like, not just a young guy like a Ricky Simone who's kind of working his way through the top 15. Like, we touched on this a little bit, and there's a reason Petr Yan was such a big betting favorite, right? Like, with Ricky Simone was a big betting favorite too, but he's not. I don't think he's quite on the level that like Petr Yan is. You're talking about Petr Yan should be fighting some of the top guys in the division. So super aggressive, really fast, young, way younger than Urijah, and man, the reaction time just wasn't there and stuff from Urijah. And I thought that was a hard matchup for Urijah anyway, just because I thought if he had an advantage anywhere, it would probably be in the grappling department. And Petr Yan is just so hard to secure a takedown on. And even if you do land it, he's so good at scrambling and getting back to his feet. So it was really hard to give Urijah Faber an advantage in any of the departments in this fight. And, Petr Yan got him out of there in the third round, man. I mean, brutal knockout. And he had hurt Faber several times leading up to that. It was, and you got to wonder what's next for Urijah Faber after that fight, right? A lot of people are going to say retirement, but I think it depends on what you want to do. If Urijah Faber wants to stick around and challenge for the title, I don't know how realistic that journey to the top is going to be at this point in his career. I think you saw him run into, this Petr Yan guy, and you kind of saw what happened, right? Like, you got to think it's going to be more of the same if he continues to fight the upper echelon in the bantamweight division. But if he just wants to fight, man, like if he's just got the bug, I've got nothing wrong with Urijah Faber fighting. I mean, he went out and fought a top guy. That would happen to. Don't get it twisted. Petr Yan fighting a lot of guys in the top 15, he would do that too. He's evolved so much as of late, and his win over Jimmy Rivera was super impressive, and he's got real power in his hands. That's a tough fight for Urijah Faber. That's a tough fight for not just a guy who's contemplated retirement in the past, but that's a tough fight for anybody in the division. So I guess it depends on what Urijah Faber is kind of feeling at this point in his career. Does he want to go out and, like I said, the title run probably is looking like it might be a little bit far out of reach now, especially after that devastating loss. But if he just wants to fight some of the top 15 guys, I think Urijah Faber still has what it takes to hang around with those guys, But how good is Petr Yan? His boxing is just so crisp, and he does carry real knockout power in his hands, and he's able to hurt you, and he's very aggressive. And him and Cody Garbrandt got into it backstage after the fight, and that's Garbrandt has to get through Rafael Assunção, who is no joke. He's got a big fight scheduled against him, but if he goes out and beats Assunção convincingly, he might have a little bit of a grudge match working there, But the problem is that Cody's already booked for a fight, right? And Petr Yan is looking like the bantamweight division is in such a weird spot, right? Because Henry Cejudo wins the title. He's now the flyweight and the bantamweight champion. Jose Aldo loses the fight, right, this past weekend, and Henry Cejudo's talking about fighting him for the bantamweight title now. But meanwhile, you've got guys like Petr. Here's what I think should happen. If Henry Cejudo is going to hold two titles, he needs to pick which one he's going to defend. If he goes and defends the flyweight bout, the flyweight one, then I think you have to have Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan fight for a title eliminator bout. And let the winner fight Cejudo at 135 for the belt, right? I don't understand how Jose Aldo comes down and okay, we're going to talk about that fight in a second, but I don't understand how you can, ignore what people like Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling have been doing within the division for a long time. So to me, I think when you look at the weight class, right, like Cejudo already beat Moraes. I mean, Dillashaw's obviously out after all the shit that he went through, right? So I think when you look at the landscape of the division, man, I really think that right now the two people that I'm most interested in seeing fight for a title are Petr Yan or Aljamain Sterling. One of those two guys. And that's not to say that there aren't other people in the weight class who aren't extremely dangerous. I just don't think that what Aldo did was enough to earn title shot right away against Cejudo. But he is Jose Aldo, right? And he did look good at 135. We'll get to that in a minute.